Hey everybody, welcome to Everyday Fi. I'm your host, Megan Combs, and I'm here to tell you that you do not need a $1 million book deal or a famous blog to reach financial independence. By exploring the lives of everyday people pursuing Fi, I'll show you how to forge your own path to financial freedom the everyday way. Today on the show, I'm back with world traveler Julie Rose, and we're going to talk about the group trip to Egypt she planned and I attended this past October. If you guys remember in her episode, which I'll link in the show notes, she in passing told me about this, and I was like, I'm going on this Egypt trip, and it actually happened. And so we're going to recap about it. Plus, we're going to discuss how you can go on your own group trip with Julie and what destinations she has planned for 2026 and 2027. Hey, Julie, how are you doing?
Hey Megan, it's so awesome to talk to you again and catch up from our Egyptian adventure a few months ago.
Yes, I'm so excited. That was such a great trip.
It
I
was
have so
so
many. I
great.
I think I have more photos of that trip in my phone than like anything else that I've ever done. So there's so many because there were so many hieroglyphs and we went to so many places. So
I
I'm really
know.
excited.
Such a blur and such a surprise. I
Yes.
was so happy with how everything turned out and really loved Egypt actually. So it exceeded all my
Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah, mine too. Before we get into that, though, I'm going to tease the audience before we get into it. I want to talk a little bit about how you got into group trip planning in the first place, because you planned this group trip for us, obviously, and you put a lot of hard work into it. But I'm really curious where you started doing that and how you started doing that.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a natural, it kind of came together pretty naturally. As probably your listeners might remember, I'm a nomad and I sold my house 5 years ago and started traveling full time. And one of the things that I sort of have run into along the way is it's hard to maintain meaningful friendships when you're on the move, when you're constantly like switching locations and you're meeting other people that are kind of like you in that everything's a blur. And even though technology does help with connections and friendships, there's nothing like an in-person experience. And so, I was kind of feeling like a little bit lonely out in the world and was thinking like, wouldn't it be great if I could get people to come to me, you know? And then at the same time, while I was going to all these cool places, I was getting feedback like, Julie, take me with you. And I want to travel with you. And like I want to replicate that trip. Like, how do I make this happen? So I things just started percolating and I'm like, okay, this is kind of like a kill two birds with one stone kind of situation. And I decided, like, let me go talk to a travel agency that I had been acquainted with before because this seems like something that together we could make happen. I would get my sort of certifications and my connections through them, and then being able to really kind of have this vision come to life, which is exactly what happened. So I affiliated with Boutique Travel Advisors based out of Scottsdale, Arizona, and basically told them, "Hey, this is what I want to achieve," and I set about and did it. And I think the exciting thing is, I just started with I chose a couple trips that I was like, well, I've always wanted to do this and I've always wanted to do this. And let me just see what people are attracted to in terms of these destinations and these itineraries. And it just sort of grew. And now I think I'm selling out trips. I have maybe around 50 people so far traveling with me next year on three or four trips that I've put together. So it's become a little bit of a machine and it's been super, super rewarding.
Yeah, that sounds really great. And as somebody who's been on one of these trips, it is extremely awesome to have somebody who just planned the whole thing and you just give them money. And it's like, it was really nice. And you just find your way to that country. And then everything else was planned and it was so much fun. I mean, there were It was like 90% fun. I think there was one instance where none of us really had a whole lot of fun, but it was one of those like type 2 fun situations where it's funny to like talk about it now, but in the moment we were like, this is not fun, but we'll talk about that in a second. I know Julie knows exactly what I'm talking about. So, how do you go about choosing and planning the destinations now? I know you said it's places you wanted to go. Is that still how you do it, or did you kind of expand how you choose destinations now?
Yeah, it's evolved a little bit, and I think it's a combination of a lot of things. So one, it has to be like, what am I into? Because I'm not going to go someplace that I'm not really into. So sometimes that's places I've been before that I really like, or new places that I would like to try. But also, I take a lot of feedback from people, and I have like a survey on my website, and I basically ask like, fill out your travel wish list. I want to know, where do you want to go? Because obviously, if people want to go, then that makes my life a whole lot easier in terms of filling up the trip. And Egypt was one of those where I had somebody say, I want to go to Egypt. And at the time I was like, yeah, I guess like, sure, that sounds good to me, because I'm happy to just really go lots of places, right? Because I can with my schedule. But obviously I want to make it fulfilling for other travelers, and then it makes it so much easier to fill up the trip. So a little bit of a combination. And then I also find myself returning to countries and maybe even doing almost the same trip, if not the same trip over again. And I think we'll talk about that in a bit.
Well, yeah, I was gonna mention Patagonia because my husband was like, "If Julie ever does Patagonia again, I'm going." And I was like, "Okay." So, he's
Hey,
so yeah, he's so into it. Yeah, he wants
I
to go
would
there.
totally go back. I would totally go back because I haven't actually done the Chilean side of Patagonia. So I'd probably
Mm.
do a combo and do both.
Yeah, that's so much fun that you get to do that. Okay, so you wrote an article recently about transformative travel and what it means to you, and it relates back to our trip to Egypt a little bit. So, can you talk a little bit about what that means to you? And then we can talk about how we did that kind of transformative travel while we were in Egypt.
Yeah, I think like in the travel industry myself, I hear this word sort of being dropped like a buzzword as if people are meant to know what that means. And I don't know that anyone's ever really defined it. Like travel is supposed to, or they think like, oh, travel is supposed to help me find myself. And sure, maybe it does in some way. And like it's done a lot for me in that I have discovered a lot of things about myself. But I feel like transformational travel is really about unlearning what you were taught. And this is something that I mean, I have been truly transformed my entire life, especially the last 5 years being totally nomadic, that my ways of thinking has changed, my worldview has changed. I am a totally different person. I have had some of the most like revelatory experiences, and travel really helps you. It just opens your eyes to different people, different cultures, different ways of life, different customs. And I think we all need a dose of that. We all need a dose of that. We need to get out of our own bubbles and out of our own heads and out of our own ideology that we think is right or we think is the only way, and look outside and see how, some other people, some other cultures are doing it, and also see how we are so much more alike than we think we are. And I've said this before, we all laugh and we all cry in the same language. We are we're humanity, and I think that gets lost when people start to think about like, these are my borders, this is my belief, and everybody else is something else.
Yeah, it's so funny. I dated somebody years and years and years ago, like 6 years ago, who was obsessed with traveling, and he went everywhere. He was like, "I plan on hitting every country in the world except a handful of them that I'm not interested in going to." And I was like, "Okay." And he said People say traveling changes you, but I've never found that true. I don't feel like I'm any different from traveling. And I just thought that was the weirdest thing to say because I was like, how can you not change with travel? Like even with Egypt, like when I went before we were going, so I did not even put together that Egypt is part of the Middle East. I was thinking Egypt is part of Africa. Like I did not think how close it is to Israel and Palestine and
Hmm.
the war that's going on there. I did not even think about that. And so people were saying how they were getting a little bit nervous the closer it got. And I was like, why are you nervous? I don't understand. And then I was like, oh, okay. But then we got there and I never felt unsafe. I mean, there were even times when our guide, Hisham, was not around. I never felt unsafe. Like, it was, I didn't speak the language, but people were still kind. Like, I remember going to a dessert shop around the corner from us in Cairo. And one of the guys who was the dessertiers or the guy making the desserts like didn't understand English. And so a woman who was a translator came up and translated for us and who was
Oh.
just like working in the shop as like a helper or translator. And I was like, that is so cool. Now, Cairo is a massive city, 30 million people, which by the way, I was like 30 million people. Oh my God, that's a lot of people. But yeah, by and I remember one of the people who we traveled with, the streets in Egypt are very busy and there's no real crosswalks or like lights. Nobody really pays attention to the street lights. And so if you're trying to cross the street as a pedestrian, you just have to like pray to God and go. And
Hmm.
we did that in Aswan. And the minute we got to the other side of the street, she was like, well, we're Egyptian now. And I just died laughing. It's like, I mean, we've been there for like a week. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it does change you. It definitely changes you. So, and
Yeah,
there
and
were
if it
specific
doesn't change
moments.
you, then what are you doing?
Mhm.
You're doing something wrong, honestly. Like I don't
Yeah.
th those people that are like country counters that are just like, I just want to check it off the list, it's such a disservice because you're not really experiencing this place. And sure, let's be real. Obviously, I know how many countries I've been to, but I'm not just trying to go to countries and check them off the list. That's why I keep going back to places. That's why I stay for weeks or months in different countries or even years. I've lived, like, at this point in time, I've lived years in Mexico when you put it all together. But it's because I want to have that immersive experience. It's because I really want to like learn from this culture in an authentic way. And otherwise, man, like you're really missing out if you're not giving yourself a chance to do that. You're not giving yourself a chance to open your eyes. Um, and
Yeah.
anyway,
And
that's an element. Go ahead.
yeah. No, I was just going to say, I would also say that for folks who go to countries and only do the touristy things, like, of course, like doing the touristy things is fun. Like, we, of course, went to the pyramids, we went to a lot of touristy sites, but we also got to support a lot of like the local vendors. We stayed in hotels that were owned by local people, not chains. And that helped us immerse a little bit more in the community and support the community. And I really appreciated that. And you learned more and had a richer experience because of that, in my opinion.
Yeah. I think it's an element that I really want to ensure all my trips include is travel as a cultural exchange, an opportunity to establish mutual respect, not like a c- passport stamp conquest type of attitude, but um, you know, we we really want to learn. We want to understand. We want to um, hear the truth and exchange information, exchange camaraderie, have that rewarding experience. And I think we had a lot of opportunities to do that in Egypt.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Okay, how do you want to start talking about Egypt? Like I was like there's so much to talk about. I don't want to like I actually have our itinerary in my phone. And so I guess I can like run through a little bit, not like each site that we saw, but the cities we went to. So we started in Cairo from what I remember. And I believe did we take the train to Aswan, right? The overnight train? Or did we
That
fly?
was
I
pretty
forget.
quick. Yeah. Yeah. That was the
Or did we
train was one of the
drive?
first experiences.
Yeah, so we took the train to Aswan, and then we drove to Luxor and then took a plane back from Luxor to Cairo, I think. Is that the loop that we did from what I remember? Yeah,
I think
let's
so.
see.
That was a lot of
Yeah.
travel
Yeah.
ago for me.
It was a lot of traveling, but that's around what we did. And so in Cairo, we did so I arrived early. So there was like the main trip itself that had like the set experiences you could do, and then you had optional experiences. And I remember I had such FOMO that I signed up for all of the optional experiences, which I regret now. I really do. Like I know I had FOMO, but like I was so templed out by the end of the trip because we went to like 2 to 3 temples a day. Like there was a lot.
Yeah. Busy. It's a busy itinerary,
It's a very
You
busy
you want you to
itinerary.
make the best of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm not gonna run through, like, everything that we did, but my mom and I arrived early. We actually arrived before everybody else, and then I think I was the last one in Cairo left. Like, everybody had left except for me, and I was like, "Oh my god, I'm here in the city by myself, and I do not speak the language." So, I actually had to have our guide Hisham call a cab driver while I was in the cab because we could not communicate. Like, we were trying Google Translate, and it wasn't working, and I was like, "Hisham, I need your help."
I didn't even hear this story.
You didn't? Yeah, yeah, I was, like, trying to get to the hotel, but I couldn't figure out how to tell him which hotel it was, and so Hisham, like, talked to him for me. It was really I mean, I made it work, like,
That's
that's why
nice.
you have a guide in that city, so yeah,
Yeah.
Hisham was our guide. He was amazing, and every time we would go to a site, he would also tell us like stories about Egyptian history and culture, not just at the site, but like just in general. Because some of the van rides were kind of long, and so he would tell us stories about the things that we were seeing on the side of the road. So it was, oh my God, it was so much fun, but it was a whirlwind. I actually felt like I was in Egypt for like a month because we did so much. We like started at, like, there was one day, what, we started at like 4 a.m. because we got on the van to go to the Abu Simbel
Oh
temple,
yeah,
which
yeah,
was one of my favorites. So
yeah.
worth getting up that early. Yes, Abu Simbel, if you guys want to look it up, it's basically where I forget which pharaoh it is, but it's the pharaoh and his wife, and it's the one where he's sitting and he's in a big wall. And so he's like several stories high sitting, and then there's a temple inside, and then his favorite wife's temple is down the way a little
I
bit
think
from
it
it.
was Ramesses, right?
It was Ramses, yeah. Yeah, I think it was because he was the one who like lived a really long time and had like 70 lovers. Like people say wives, but I think it was lovers because we were looking it up.
Concubines. Yeah, something like that.
Concubines, yeah. And this was his favorite one. Yeah, there's so many hieroglyphs everywhere. So yeah, that was a good one. But
I
yeah,
think that
I
what
mean,
was funny about that day is that so here's a couple of my thoughts. Like we started with the pyramids. The first day we went to the first big day that we had, we went to the pyramids and you kind of think like at the time like, "Oh, we're starting with the coolest thing. So how are we going to match this? How are we going to exceed this?" But no. The pyramids are not the coolest thing. The pyramids are cool, sure, and that was a super cool day and we were all like geeking out and just like totally thrilled to see that. But then things just got better and better. And like you said about Abu Simbel, I was commenting to somebody that we were walking to it. I was commenting to somebody like, gosh, nothing really wows me anymore. I see so many things, cool things like traveling full time. It's really hard to wow me. It's really hard to like for me to lose my breath. And then we turned the corner and I was like, wow, you know.
yeah, I think I stayed the full, so we got a certain amount of time to like wander on our own. And so I spent the entire full 2 hours. Like I think I was the last one to come out of the site because I was just like blown away. Yeah, it was incredible. And the fact that they moved it. So basically it was below like a floodplain, and floods came in because of they had a dam that they like let go and they forgot to move it before they did. And so they literally moved it from underwater to above the water and like stone by stone rebuilt it. It was so cool. And I forget, it was like his birthday was one of the people's who we were on the trip with, her son's birthday, I think, and she, like,
Yeah.
got him the Ramses II cologne as well, so I don't know if you remember that, but and
Yeah.
then I think his coronation day was, like, close to my birthday, so we thought that was really cool. But yeah, it was just and there was a lot of tourists, but it really wasn't so bad. I mean, inside the temple, it can get a little crowded, but outside, there was a lot of space, so that was nice, but yeah, the pyramids, I actually started crying when we started the pyramids because
Oh,
I was
really?
so yeah, just like a little teary-eyed, not like bawling or anything, but I because I had been wanting to go to Egypt and see this for so long, and I actually thought I never would be able to
Mhm.
because people have told me like, "Oh, it's a pretty dangerous region you might, not wanna go." And so I was just so excited because I've been learning about this because I used to be an art historian, and this is one of the first 101 classes you take is Egyptian art history. Is
Mhm.
just you take it all the time. And so I was just and the pyramids were pretty awesome too. And I love Hisham's story. I recorded the whole thing, the story about so basically the Great Pyramids, there's 3 of them, and the daddy pyramid was supposed to be taller than the child pyramid, like the son's pyramid, and then I think there was like the wives pyramid or the second son. But the son was like, "Well, I wanna be taller than my dad technically." So he just built the pyramid, and technically it's not as tall, but it's higher up on the ground, so it looks taller. I thought that was so funny, like, that story.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, so what was your favorite moment during like, I know we're talking about all the monuments that we went to, but there were other, like, smaller moments that were also really cool. I'm thinking like the boat in Aswan on the Nile,
Yeah.
just like hanging out, chilling, listening to music, talking to people on this boat. And it was like a little small boat. It was just us, just our group.
The Felucca.
Yeah. Yeah, the Felucca. And then we had the Nubian dinner with the Nubian family. That was my favorite experience besides seeing like Apu Simbel. That was my
Mhm.
favorite smaller experience for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the Nile River experience that was really special and kind of just like laying there having we're all just chatting in the sea breeze or I mean the river breeze and cruising the Nile like that was that was a memory and then the meal that we had after. But I really kind of dug, which I didn't expect this because you like you said, you're kind of starting to get a little bit templed out. But the Valley of the Kings was so cool. So cool. And
Yeah.
like, I mean, I really felt like going into some of these places like Indiana Jones. Like you think maybe it's all Hollywood, that the stuff that you've seen in movies, that it's exaggerated Hollywood, but then you go inside some of these pyramids and you're like, "Whoa, this is the inspiration." And like this is even cooler than anything that you would see in Hollywood because it's so vibrant and the stones and like what's left and then just to kind of imagine like, "Oh my gosh, these are like thousands of years old and it's not a movie set. It's real." I think for me, I was like, dang, I can't even like wrap my head around this. It was really kind of amazing.
And so in the Valley of the Kings, so basically the story is, from what I remember, they stopped building pyramids because the pyramids kept getting looted. And so they started looking for mountains that were already pyramid shape and then building the tombs inside the mountains so they would be harder to find.
Hmm.
And actually, they're still discovering tombs to this day. And oh, do you know, Hisham said that there was one that was just discovered and it was supposed to be announced. Did that ever get it? I never actually followed up on that. Do you remember what that was?
I don't
Was
know,
it
but
Cleopatra's?
well, I think the Egyptians are probably keeping some of this stuff close to the chest.
Secret. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And it wasn't just the pharaohs, it was the wives of the pharaohs, it was also diplomats, it was political figures, it was high ranking officials, so a bunch of people like that. But we saw there was a ton of tombs you could see. Of course, King Tut was there, which was extremely, underwhelming in my opinion, although he was very small. He was a very small
Yeah.
human, and his tomb was interesting, but Yeah, I definitely thought what was it? I think it's Ramses 5 and 6 were the tombs that I thought were the coolest because they were
Hmm.
extremely well preserved, very colorful, and just covered in hieroglyphs, art,
Yeah.
all of it. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And like a huge chamber at the bottom. That was probably my favorite. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one was yours?
I am looking at my pictures right now.
The thousands of pictures we
I
took.
know. I'm
It's
looking at my
hard to
pictures right now.
like I was telling Julie, I forget if we were recording already, but I was saying that this took up the most space in my phone than any other trip that I've ever taken and probably any other like occurrence. And now I can't even piece together what was what. And I'm gonna have to go through and organize them because there were so many. But yeah, there's so much to see in Egypt. It's insane. But if did you look at your pictures?
I can't remember which one is which. But
Okay.
I have a lot of great pictures. So,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and then so that was Valley of the Kings, so that was Luxor, so that was towards the end of our trip. Aswan was that was where we saw Abu Simbel, I believe, and where we did the Nubian dinner and the Nile. And I think that was also my favorite hotel because the hotel faced the Nile and then also had a pool.
hmm.
And the funny thing is like Julie would say this that this was an affordable trip. And the accommodations, in Cairo were decent, but they weren't like upscale or anything. It was a room, it was a bed, it was clean. And but then the Aswan hotel, I was like, this is nice. Especially the pool and the view of the Nile. And the
Hmm.
cool thing about the Nile is like in the background is just this like hill of sand. So and then palm trees and then the Nile. It's very different than anything you might see.
Hmm.
Um, and then Luxor was similar to Cairo, but I think that I actually cannot remember the accommodations in Luxor, but I think it was also pretty good. So, but this was like the accommodations were decent. All of the travel was paid for by us. Like a lot of the food was as well. And even if we had to buy the food, it was very cheap
Hmm.
because Hisham would take us to like local places that were served like local food and it was really good and cheap. And yeah, it was fantastic. So I'm gonna let you speak about it. I feel like I'm just rambling on this trip, so I want you to have the opportunity to also ramble.
Well, I mean, I think I want to maybe touch on a few things. So, one, what you just said about the affordability, I think that is sort of an important thing to call out and also mention that I'm I want my trips to be attainable. I'm not like doing luxury trips, even though I have offered some more luxurious trips. I also want to allow people who maybe are on a more of a budget, are following a budget to experience amazing places, have these transformative travel experiences, and do it within their financial limitations. Egypt was one of those trips. I offered a couple more this year. I'll do the same like upcoming, but like 15.99 was the core trip for Egypt. And we had like it's such an amazing group. We even despite kind of the some of the safety concerns and things that people were worried about, we had a really amazing group. And things are packaged. There's the economy of scale in a group so that you have some savings with everybody sharing the transport, packaged rates. We have one guide who's with us every single day and the logistics being handled. So I think, this is really awesome for people who, oh, I don't want to have to manage this stuff on my own or pay for things separately. I want to um, see see do an amazing cool trip, see amazing cool things, but do it an affordable cost.
Yeah, and it surprised me the cost of this, which is what I was like, wow, this is so attainable and affordable, especially for what you're getting because it like I said, like we said, dedicated guide who pretty much helped us handle everything. And like made sure we got on the flight, which also the flights were booked for us. He gave us our tickets. Like he showed us to our seats. The overnight train was booked for us. He took us to the train station. He told us where we were going to be sleeping. Like he took us to he was the one who organized or helped organize and talk to all of the van drivers and all of the hotel clerks and stuff. And when I say organize, I mean he like just kind of kept things going with Julie, but like so that Julie could also enjoy the trip. You didn't have to like worry about that kind of stuff. And it was just I was like, we only have to pay this much for this. And the other thing is like, so I think that price is sharing a room, but you could also have a single room if you wanted to upgrade a little bit. And I don't think that upgrade price was much. I think for my mom and I decided to do that, and it was like, I don't remember, like $300
$379.
extra. Yeah, 370. Thank you. 379 for like the whole trip to have single rooms the whole time, which was really cool. And then if you have miles, that's how you buy your flight out there, right?
Hmm.
So easy peasy, you know? And so you're spending maximum $2,000. Of course, like we bought a bunch of, souvenirs and stuff like that, but probably too many. I actually have gifted some of them because I was like, I have nowhere to put this in my house. So I've gifted some of them. And so yeah, it was extremely affordable and I loved that. And you got to see a place that I think, you know, and then our eyes were opened a lot just through the guide, Hisham. I think he was probably one of my favorite parts of the trip because he opened my eyes a lot to the culture in Egypt because I don't know if you remember him talking about this story. He's like, "What do you think about when you think of Egypt?" He's like, "You think of ancient Egypt." He's like,
Hmm.
"Egypt is not known for anything they've done in recent years." And he was like, "And I just think that we deserve better as a people." And
Yeah.
I that really moved me. I was like, "Oh my God, yeah." And you can tell he loves his country so
Hmm.
much. And so
Hmm.
having that kind of person tell you about the country as you're experiencing it was just above and beyond. It was almost priceless. So, yeah, I hope
Yeah.
Hisham listens to this and hears us gushing. So,
Oh, I hope so too. Another thing I want to mention is people are like, "Oh my gosh, so you're like a tour guide." I'm like, "No. Believe me, I'm not a tour guide. I am organizing these trips and I'm hosting these trips, but I hire an amazing guide to actually do the heavy lifting operationally. So I'm administering and organizing and keeping people on track with like deadlines and making sure they have all their information for packing and travel insurance and all of that, visas and so on. But that's all pre-trip, organization. So once we get on the trip, I'm like sitting back. I'm letting the guide who speaks Arabic, who lives there, who has all the direct connections with the drivers and the hotels and everything else that's going on, he's managing that, or she, depending on the trip. And that means I can enjoy it, but also that there is a professional with experience doing all the things. And so that's not something I want to take on. And also I don't want my guests to I would be fumbling that. I don't speak Arabic. I don't speak, I want us all to be in good hands, and that's why I leave the guiding portion up to a professional. And absolutely love like Hisham was amazing. And we all loved him. So it worked out
yeah.
perfectly.
Yeah, definitely. He was definitely part of it. Big part of it. Okay, so I promised to talk about the one like rough experience that we all had, and that was the overnight train. I don't wherever from Cairo to Aswan, I'm pretty sure is what it was, but regardless of what it was I was so excited about that too. I was like, a sleeper train. I've heard such good things, but I think what was in my head is like the European ones.
Yeah.
The really nice luxury ones. Yeah, this was not luxury. The cabins themselves were fine. Like it wasn't that. It was just that whoever was driving the train would like slam on the brakes every 10-20 minutes while we were all sleeping. And I remember going flying against the wall over and over again while we were trying to sleep. And so I don't think any of us slept at all
I
during
think
that
they needed to
entire
grease,
ride.
they also needed to grease those train tracks because it was like so screechy and squealy. And you're like, you're right. The bed itself was like comfortable enough if it was stationary. But because the train was so jerky and so screechy, you couldn't sleep comfortably. And I'll just put it out there right now. My next trip is not going to have an overnight train my next time to Egypt. So if you're listening and you're like, I really want to go to Egypt now, and I'm going to do another trip to Egypt, but I will skip the overnight train. Believe me, we've been there, done that. It is not worth it. So we are going to be flying next time, guys. I'm going to upgrade to the flight, and everybody will just you know sit in comfort instead of suffer overnight in torment.
Well, and but the thing is, it was funny because a lot of us stayed up kind of late because we had wine, different kinds of wine, and we all were staying up chatting. I think most of us. And that's
Hmm.
actually how that and the pool at Aswan was how I got to know a lot of people like deeper because we would talk about deeper things. Because, when the libations are flowing, you get a little bit, more talkative. I'm not saying anybody was drunk or anything, but so that part was actually really fun. But then the sleeping was not the best. I do remember mentioning because Hisham was pointing out the new train station and it was beautiful. Like the train station was magnificent. And I was like, I don't give a crap about the train station. I want to know how nice the trains are. They were
And
not.
it was
They
it like
were not nice.
1940s train or 1970s
Yeah.
train or something crazy
Yeah.
like that?
It was an old train. I was like, "Can we put the money in the train instead of in the tracks instead of the train station? Because you're only in the train station for a short period of time." So, no, I would say if
Yeah.
you're the kind of person who likes type 2 fun, a train like that is definitely type 2 fun. If you only want type 1 fun, though, then I wouldn't do an overnight train in Egypt. But yeah.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny. I also okay, I have to mention the bathrooms too. They were basically a toilet and then it was a hole to the tracks. So, like, that was the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. That
I
was
mean, I
nice and
guess it
rustic.
speeds everything up, right?
Yeah, yeah, it greases the
Oh my
tracks.
God. Oh my God.
Blah. Yeah,
Anywho's, we survived.
yeah, we
And now we
did.
have stories.
Stories. Now it's fun. Yeah, so yeah, Cairo was pretty cool because we haven't talked much about Cairo yet. So like I said, my mom and I got there early and we navigated our way from the airport to I think we actually got picked up by one of the like drivers. So we didn't have to
Hmm.
like navigate too much. Once we arrived, like we had somebody who met us and like walked us through the airport and waited for the driver. So that was nice. Got to the hotel, basically just crashed until the next day, which was nice. And so we had that time to recoup because it was a very long flight. And then we had the like massage or what was it called? I forget the massage, but it was like the
Hammam.
spa treatment at the like the hammam. Yeah, we had the hammam that one of the other people who went on the trip set up for us and that was really cool and that was at like one of those 5-star hotels in Egypt, which was really cool to experience. And so it was we'd never experienced that before, and so that was really cool. And then there was like I don't know, everybody was so nice too, and at the hotel and everything, it was great. And then God, what did we do in Cairo? So we did. I saw like old Christian sites in Cairo, which was I thought was really cool because it was like we saw the mosque and then a Jewish site and then a Christian site. And I thought all like that was really cool that they all kind of lived here in this like pocket of where all these
Hmm.
religions were
Yeah.
originated from, right? So
Yeah.
that was really cool. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
we also had kosheri,
Yeah, that's that like Egyptian dish that was interesting. I forget what goes. It's like chickpeas,
macaroni,
macaroni. I was
lentils,
like some sort of pasta, lentils, right? And then this like
yeah,
spicy sauce
tomatoey
that you made
sauce.
yourself. Yeah, it was like vinegar and this spicy tomato. And like, I remember asking Hisham, I was like, so do Egyptians like it spicy? He was like, well, I don't really like it that spicy. And I was like, I want more spice. And I just like piled on the spice.
It sounds
Uh,
weird. I feel like it sounds like some little kid is like
yeah.
home alone and he's just like throwing things in a pan that or like in a dish that make no sense and that's just what's left in the pantry. But it is so good.
It
It
was
is
so good.
so
And the
good.
restaurant was packed, and that's what everybody was eating. So yeah, it was really good.
And it was only like
Uh,
$2.
yeah, it was no money. Yeah. So, do you want to talk about the testimonials from other people who went on the
Well,
trip?
I do. Yeah, I want to talk about the group dynamic a little bit
Yeah,
because I
yeah.
think we
Perfect.
just sort of touched on that really quickly. But I want to say that because I think that's one of the most attractive things about a trip like this is Sure, you can join a group and everything's packaged and that the convenience factor is really great. But what you also get with a group trip like this is you have the built-in socialization and the friendship with all the other guests. And not only that, but I think I had a group chat, like a text WhatsApp chat going for probably almost a year before the trip even before we even had the trip so that people could just get to know each other and already feel like when you show up on day one, people already know a little bit about each other and like they can put a face to a name. And I just want to read a couple of the things that people said after the trip. So Beth said, another wonderful trip as always. I've traveled with Julie 3 times now. She makes everything so easy. She makes sure that you're fully prepared for the trip and creates an atmosphere of welcoming and fellowship with the other travelers so that on the first day you are totally comfortable and ready to go. By the end of the trip, you feel like you've known everyone for years. And Bailey said, Julie made preparing for my Egypt trip effortless, every question answered, every detail handled. All I had to do was show up at the airport. It was clear how much care she poured into creating a warm, welcoming community before we even left. Her organization and heart made the experience truly special. And Robin said, loved it. It felt like camp, but for adults. All the women in our group were so kind, curious, interested in all of our experiences. They were a joy to be with and a huge part of the magical experience. I do believe that's because Julie set the tone from the beginning. It was way better than I even hoped for.
Yes, yeah, and that I agree with all of that. And yeah, I don't think we mentioned that this was an all women's trip. So, and yeah, so Julie, why did you pick Egypt as the all women's destination? I think you also picked another country last year and that had like a similar vibe that was the all women's trip too. Was it Morocco
That was so
or
I had Turkey and then I had Morocco the year before.
yeah, those two trips. So why did you do those as women only?
Yeah, I think it's worth it to sort of mention that I would say probably maybe 30% or 40% of my trips are women only and the rest are co-ed. There's usually maybe one more co-ed than women only. But I like to choose some of these destinations. I don't know if I can verbalize the reason actually, but if you can kind of find the common thread between Morocco, Turkey, and Egypt. I think they could be countries that women might be afraid to travel to by themselves, that they would feel more supported, more safe if they had a group, safety in numbers. I'll probably keep kind of taking that tack when I decide which trips are going to be my women only trips. But it really it was I mean it was so special because we felt safe the whole time. We were protected, just in groups by ourselves, and then also having Hisham. And I think like that's one of the big surprises. And another thing that some of the testimonials say is that at no point did anybody feel unsafe. At no point did anybody feel like they were like on display or that nobody ever felt harassed. I mean, sure, there are people trying to sell you stuff, but nobody ever felt harassed in terms of being a woman or being disrespected in any way. And I want to stress that because I think that's one of those big stereotypes out there that Egypt might be unsafe or might be uncomfortable for female travelers. And maybe sure the group aspect did play into sort of how comfortable we all felt. Maybe it would have been different if we were all kind of on our own independently traveling out there. But I also think the Egyptian people probably get a bad rap because I did not see anything to the extreme of what I have heard. And I think that's another, it kind of just plays back into the what is transformational travel? It's travel that changes your stereotypes. It's travel that makes you think differently about other people, other cultures, other ethnicities, and so on. And I think we all came away with that. Like, go in with, you know, maybe our expectations were different than what we actually experienced. But if you go into a place with no expectations, like, be prepared to be blown away. And we all came away with that experience.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the biggest things that I noticed was like the kids. Do you remember all the kids in the school groups? They would be like, "Oh, take a picture with me, take a picture with me," because they'd never seen a bunch of, blonde, brunette, white women all in one group. So they were very excited about that. But that was like the closest to us being quote unquote singled out for being different. That was
Yeah.
it. Like maybe a couple stares here and there, but I never felt like threatened. It was just like, there's not a lot of blonde women in Egypt. So, and it was, I never felt like anybody was trying to steal anything from, like, there was
Mm-mm.
nobody got mugged, nobody got nothing like that. And like,
No.
yeah, we were in groups and stuff, but we were also in crowds, and it would have been easy for pickpocketers. Nothing like that ever happened. And I mean, I've gotten robbed in New York City, I know people who've gotten robbed in cities all over United States. So like I felt safer in Egypt and Cairo than I did in New York. So that's just saying something. But yeah, I think it's one of those things, like if you're thinking of traveling to a destination that's a little bit like outside your comfort zone, maybe look at group travel, and that might ease you into doing it, and then maybe that'll help you, get to places that you might not go to otherwise. And I'm definitely going to be doing more group travel myself. And yeah. So, Julie, what other trips do you have coming up, by the way, that people can join if they want to? So, this is coming out. This is coming out. We're recording end of December. This is going to come out early March. So, yeah, there might be some trips that have already passed, but what are some that people might be able to go and sign up for as this comes out?
Yeah, so there's going to be two that have already passed or on like in the middle whenever this comes out. And please go ahead and see the fun on social media if you're curious. But I'll be going to Galapagos in February. I'll be going to Peru in March. That one is a women only. And so, yes, go ahead and peek on social to see how those are going. But the next one after that is going to be Oaxaca, Mexico for Day of the Dead. And this is like a really amazing cultural phenomenon that Mexico celebrates. Everybody sort of has a little bit of an idea of what Day of the Dead is from the movie Coco, the Disney movie. But yes, imagine experiencing it in Oaxaca, which is what the movie is based on. And it's 6 nights, 7 days celebrating the Day of the Dead and that time where the dead, check back into the to world to say hello to their loved ones. And then a whole lot of other cool things in to see around Oaxaca, which is one of the best cities in the world. I think Travel and Leisure called them the best city in the world a couple years ago. So it's really an amazing destination on its own, with or without the Day of the Dead. And
Yeah.
that one,
And when's that happening? Yeah.
that is October 28th through November 3rd. Actually, at this point, it might check in because it's already selling out really fast. I think there's only like 4 spots left at this point. So check in and get on the wait list if it is getting close, because sometimes there's a dropout closer to the trip. But that one is the next one. Following that, I am kind of working out a few details, but I think it's going to be Thailand. I think it's going to be Thailand, and I see Megan like clapping her hands. And that is looking like it's going to be maybe February-ish. So check back in with me because I will probably have details by the time this podcast comes out. And then after that, the next one is going to be Kenya and Uganda, and well, optionally Uganda, it's up to you, but that is going to be May 2027.
And
And
that's a safari, right?
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's so fun.
This is going to be a crazy trip. It's 9 days in Kenya. We're going to 4 national parks, also visiting the Maasai people, and then the a couple conservation organizations with the giraffes and with the elephants in Nairobi, and then optionally you can up the adventure and get even more bold. We're going to be gorilla trekking in Uganda and also see the chimpanzees, see the hanging lions. Those are the lions that climb up in the trees, which is, I think Uganda is one of the only places, if not the only place, you can see them. So totally different, but more safari. And if you have never done a safari, oh my God, this is a bucket list trip. If you have done a safari, then you know that you want to keep going back on safari. So that this one is, I've already started taking names for that one, and that one's going to be incredible. So, and more to come, more to come.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you guys got it firsthand from somebody who went on this trip. And, I'm basically a walking testimonial of Julie's trips. Like, I'm definitely planning on going on more. I have to wait till post baby, but yeah, I will be definitely going on more. And like I said, if you do Patagonia again, my husband and I are on that trip. Like, we will hand the child over to a babysitter to go on that trip. So yeah, I'm so excited. And I'll put all the links to everything we talked about in the show notes, your website, your Instagram, the article about transformative travel, things like that. So, but before we sign off, there was something about your apprenticeship that you wanted to also discuss. Yeah, let's talk about that.
Yeah, so as you know, as you probably tell, I am a busy lady, and I can only really do so many trips on my own because I can only be in one place at a time. But I know that there is more interest. There are more destinations that people are interested in and want to go to, and everyone has their own schedule that works for them. So, that being said, I am going to be, and I've already started this a little bit, bringing on apprentices who would want to like organize and host a group trip. And that means that there is a destination that they want to do, that they want to go to, and they have some people that they would bring along, or some of my people want to go along, then I sort of teach them how to do what I do with their own flavor. And so, this is a little bit of a work in progress, but again, by the time this comes out, I will have probably gotten farther along in my curriculum, and I'm actually already working with somebody, but I think this is growing. I think there is a lot of interest, and not only me just saying that, but the statistics are showing that people are really interested in group travel, and there's so many benefits and there's so much value to it. And also just people are looking for community. And that's one of the things that these trips offer. And I also just want to note, this started with like, oh, come travel with me. I want to make friends. But what I have seen is how people make friends with each other. It's not about me, it's not about me at all. I am just enabling this for everyone else. And I'm seeing just beautiful like friendships blossom, and people getting together again, and people coming back to travel with me, and then they're bringing more friends, or different friends are going on different trips, and somehow everyone's like connecting, and it's being this like circular web of just like friendship and positivity. And you saw it, Megan, like we're still in the group chat. We're still like connecting with the girls, and now we're like 2 months past. And the girls are going to come back on more trips in the future. So it's an opportunity to get back together again and see more amazing things. And I just watch it, and it just tickles me, and it makes me feel really good.
Yeah, and so this is for somebody who maybe what's the ideal person to join this apprenticeship? Like, is it somebody who's already kind of traveling a lot and gets a lot of people who are saying like, I want to do those trips too and want to learn what you do? Or could it be a novice who's like, I want to start traveling, but I think this is really cool what you do? Like, could it be either of those? What would you suggest?
Yeah, I think that's you're asking a good question. Like there should be a pre-qualifier, and there will be. I also want to note is you don't have to be exactly like me. I'm not going to expect that at all, because I will be co-managing with you, at least on the back end. I will be co-managing in terms of sort of the portals, and because I'm a travel advisor, I have access to things that maybe like a regular host, and anybody could be a host, would have access to. So it'll be a co-managing thing, but as far as the host is like a genuine interest in transformative travel and bringing people together, who is social, who is energized by sort of seeing people be empowered in with travel experiences and energized by seeing like friendships blossom and bloom, who wants to bring people on their adventures and kind of looks at the world with curiosity and creativity. And yeah, I mean, I think it takes a certain kind of person, but there are lots of those people out there, and you put your own flavor on it. I think it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to share. And so you have my support, but then also you make it your own, and ideally you have some people you're bringing in that you already want to travel with, or that already know they want to travel with you. And I support there as needed. But I can see this really growing, and it's something too that my travel agency is passionate about. So I can see much more trips being offered in the future.
Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds like a great opportunity. Where can people look that up? Do I just send them to your website, or is there something somewhere specific that I can send them to find more details on this apprenticeship?
Send them to my website for now, but I am working on a separate domain, which maybe by the time March rolls around I'll have. But just in case, they can you can check out my website.
Awesome. Yeah, and I'll definitely link that in the show notes. Cool. Thank you so much, Julie, for coming on, talking about our Egypt trip and all the trips you have planned. Your life is so awesome. So I hope you get some interest in the apprenticeship from this, and also some interest in your trips too. So yeah, if you guys were contemplating group travel, do it with Julie, because it's amazing. I mean, the experiences are
Aw.
incredible and life-changing, and take up most of your phone storage space with photos. So
Well, I just have to say, I am so glad you came, because how crazy. I mean, we just sort of had a little convo, just sort of bypassed, oh yeah, Egypt is coming up. And then, a day or two later, Megan texts me like, okay, we're in. Me and my mom, we're coming. And I'm like, oh. And then we had an opportunity to meet in real life and had an opportunity to travel together. And actually, Megan and I shared a room for a couple nights, which was
we
which was
did.
fun.
Yeah. Yes.
So we had a sleepover and, a slumber party. And so, that wouldn't have been, I mean, I'm sure you don't do that with all your podcast guests. So, how
Nope, not so
cool.
far. I mean, yeah, no, not so far. I mean, I'll see some of them at like the Camp Fives and stuff, but never shared a room with anybody for sure. And never been on
Hmm.
their specific trips. But yeah, it was great. And it was so that's why I love bringing people onto the show, and the amazing stories that people have, because it's not only expanding like my audience's life, but it's expanded my life, and this one even more so than like any of the others. So yeah, thank you for telling me about it and offering it and just being who you are. So
Oh, well, Megan, thank you for being who you are and coming along for the ride, because we had an amazing time and I can't wait for part two. If that's Patagonia or Thailand or wherever that is, we'll figure it
yeah,
out.
yeah. Oh, can't wait. All right. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to hit subscribe and leave a quick rating. Also, hit up my Patreon at patreon.com/everydayphi-podcast for ad-free and bonus content coming in 2026. I'm Megan Combs, and I'll see you next time on Everyday Phi.